So I'm here with Kara Swisher from All Things D. Fantastic scoop today, Kara, about Yahoo dumping its CEO Scott Thompson.
Yep. Thank you very much. I was working on it for a while.
Yeah, that's quite a big story. And then, of course, the Yahoo board follows up with confirming it just a few hours later. Is this a good thing for Yahoo to finally have some clarity after this whole problem with Scott Thompson falsifying his resume?
Well, there's a lot of things going on here. I mean, they're in the midst of a massive restructuring, which was started by Scott when he came in January, and he was really interrupted in a very serious situation management overhaul and layoffs and everything else. So I think this has kind of stopped up any kind of progress, and it wasn't going to go away for at least a while. And that was one of the big issues. And Yahoo doesn't have the time here to deal with that.
Well, are you saying that Scott Thompson was on the right track and he had the right strategy for fixing what was wrong with Yahoo?
I think he was on a track. Not everybody agreed with his track, but he was on some track. He was focusing more on commerce and data. A lot of people feel Yahoo's a media company, which Ross Levinsohn, the new CEO, is obviously going to take that route. So,
well, exactly. I mean, that's a really big dichotomy right there, whether it's a data company or a technology company and or it's a media company. And Ross has been sort of beating that content drum for quite some time. And, you've been right at the forefront of asking that really important question of, like, what is Yahoo?
Right. That has been the big question. And so Scott came in with a kind of a different, he wasn't abandoning the media part or the advertising part because it makes up the most important part of the company. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, he was trying to stress other businesses, innovations and things like that. And, it began with hiring someone from PayPal to do more commerce stuff. And, it was kind of a little bit out in left field. Not many people think of Yahoo and think of commerce.
Okay, so then now, with Ross now as the interim CEO, is that going to shift the direction of the company? Is that going to just clarify it once and for all that it's now moved toward content as opposed to anything else?
Well, he's an interim CEO, so they didn't give him the full CEO-ship, probably because they're not sure how he will be, and also they've got to test him out. He's never run a big company, a public company like this.
He wanted the job when he didn't get it when they appointed Scott Thompson, right? He wanted it then.
I'm not sure he wanted it as much as he was one of the possible internal candidates, but so was Blake Irving, another top executive who's since left. There were numerous other names mentioned, most of which were in media. I think the board is indicating via his choice that that's what they're thinking of, probably.
Well, let's talk about the board for a second. So Roy Bostock got dumped today, too. And you got 3 new board members with this activist shareholder, Dan Loeb, now has 3 of himself and 2 other of his guys on the board. How is that going to change the strategic direction of the company, do you think?
Well, it'll be fun for me. There's a lot of fantastic, really interesting people, but quite a few of them are media people.
I'm bummed personally that Jeff Zucker is, by the way, not on the board. It would have been fun for me, but anyway.
He still knows what's going on. I think Michael Wolff is, very well-known Viacom executive. They have a guy who's a good turnaround specialist, Harry Wilson. And, Dan has had a real interest lately in the internet space. So it should be interesting with the also relatively new board members who hadn't been installed yet, but who had been named. Peter Liguori, who worked for Discovery and News Corp. There's a guy from IAC who's a CFO, but fantastically
But you're talking, these are content guys, right? I mean, on the board that you're talking about.
More content guys.
Absolutely.
And so some of them are technological, Maynard Webb, and the guy who's now the chairman, Fred Amoroso, who is much more technical. But it's a very good board now, actually. It's a really interesting, and it's a lot of personalities, a lot of strong personalities. That's probably the biggest issue, is that before it was a mix of weak and strong personalities. Now it's some people with some opinions, and that would be what I would assume would be an issue, good and bad.
So what does Ross Levinsohn have to do to become the permanent CEO, do you think? Or is this really just a placeholder for the moment?
I think he's got to show some, turning around the advertising business, figuring out some strategic directions that are growing Yahoo. I mean, growing Yahoo is the problem, really. It hasn't grown. And a lot of it's still a very profitable company. It's still a very large company. It's still a very large presence on the internet. But growth is what it's all about in this case. It's not going to be valued very much unless it does that.
Well, exactly. And hasn't everyone sort of presumed that they're going to sell off, they're going to break off the Chinese piece, and all the Asian entities were going to go their own way, and that Yahoo was just going to be a standalone entity in the United States?
Yes, that's it. they're still working on the Chinese deal. I think that's going to go forward because they don't want to own that much of that stock, even though it's a fast-growing stock. It's sort of like having located your headquarters on a diamond mine kind of thing. So, but it doesn't mean that's your company's idea of growth. Mm-hmm. And there's parts of the company, very technological parts, that could be better served elsewhere that Yahoo doesn't need to own. And so I think they'll probably go, and they have their mail thing that's sort of dying. Anyone's mail programs are dying, but they have one of the biggest ones.
Right.
And so they got to really figure out how much of a media company they want to be. And, they have lots of, Ross has been pushing that. He was at the New Fronts, the In-Fronts or whatever they're called, putting on a show with Katie Couric and some others. And so is Google. And so
they've got this new thing with Anthony Zeiger. They're kind of making movies now and all kinds of stuff like that.
Anthony Zeiger is pretty much working for every internet company, I think, but he's and CSI is fantastic. I actually used the expression CS Live for this scandal because Scott didn't have a computer science degree, as it turned out.
Right, CS Live. Oh, I like that. There, in the meantime, on another plane, they're trying to save CSI. There's another whole thing going on today, but anyway, they've canceled that show.
I also called it resumes, all kinds of stuff. You could watch bio, whatever.
That's a pretty crazy one. Well, anyway, it'll be really interesting to see what happens to this company. We will be reading your coverage because you seem to be first with everything on this company. I never question it when it comes out of your pen. Anyway, I want to wish you happy Mother's Day, Kara. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for all the great work.
Thanks.
See you later.